Hello, this is Glen Guyton, your diversity and inclusion keynote speaker. I'm your cultural competency navigator, helping you to engage cultural and generational differences in the workplace so that you can have a more productive and collaborative work environment. Hey, it's so good to be with you today. Today, we're going to be talking about intercultural communication in a business context. That's right, intercultural communication in a business context. But before we begin, I want you to do one thing. Look down below. I want you to press that subscribe. Thank you so much. And if you have some friends that would be interested in these YouTube videos, tell them to come and subscribe too. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. I really mean it from the heart. Okay, so we're going to be talking about intercultural communication in a business context, which is very important because some of you watching this video may be doing business all across the world and you want to know how to communicate, right? You want people to be able to hear and receive your message in the way that you are sending it, right? And so as we think about intercultural communication, well, let's just talk a little bit about communication. I'm going to go to my handy dandy whiteboard. And so we have some people here. I don't know if I'm good at drawing, but this is a person. This is another person here. I don't know what's wrong with their forehead. But these are some people. This person has a thicker neck right here. But like when we're talking, right, we say some stuff. It's coming here. And then all the stuff that we say, it goes through the air. And then it goes into this person's ear hole, right? And then this person has to take it from their ear hole to their brain. And their brain starts to process stuff. And then they say back to us, hopefully, the same thing that we said to them. But if you've ever played that game, telephone, or I don't know what they play now. Maybe they play mobile phone now. But in that game, telephone, some things get lost in translation. And that's what intercultural communication is all about. Is making sure we send our message. So we are sending the message. And then someone over here has to receive that message. And all this other stuff in between affects how people receive that message. And so in a business context, a loss of translation, a poor transmission, I should say. A poor transmission can lead to costly mistakes. It can lead to injuries in the workplace. If you have people that have to translate information into different languages, or if you're working with a process and you have had to get documents translated, it can be very important that we understand context and we understand culture, how people frame things and people's understanding of communication. And so that's why intercultural communication in the business context is very important, because we don't want to lose money. We don't want people to get injured. And ultimately, we want to be able to collaborate with companies overseas, or if we have a workforce that's made up of workers that are not from the United States, or wherever your primary place of doing business is. So intercultural communication is very important. And sometimes we think that we can just take something and we can like translate it, right? Oh, we're going to just translate it. We're going to take it from English and we're going to translate it into Mandarin or something like that. So just let's say Mandarin. I don't know how to spell Mandarin. How do you spell Mandarin? How should I spell that? I have my expert speller, Mandarin, here. And so we think we can just translate it, but it's not as simple as that always. We have to make sure we understand context, and we have to understand culture, right? And so it's important that we take these into account when we are sending information across to different people, when we're writing instructions. I mean, many of you have bought something off of Amazon and you've read the instructions. You're like, I don't know what in the world this is saying. And so from the perspective of the producer in whatever country has made this product, they may say, hey, this is a literal translation. But literal translations don't always match. They're not always be able to send a message in a way that's easily understood or that's meaningful for the receiver. So we have to think about that. Some other aspects of this as we think about it is we have to understand how we communicate, right? So how do we communicate and speak with one another? I'm going to have to go get my my little wipe thing to wipe this off, and I'll be right back. All right, now that my board is clean, I want to show you a little chart that may help you understand the different communication styles, especially if you are doing business with people from different countries. And so some of these things are generalizations, so don't just take it like this is just the gospel, this is the way it is, but these are some trends that have shown up over time as you think about how people communicate. And so there are four different types of communication, at least we're going to talk about four. We have what we call a more emotional style, so more emotion in the communication. We have less emotion over here. And emotion. You got me feeling emotion. That's a good song. We also have people that are more indirect. And we have the more direct style over here. And so these are some things to keep in mind as we communicate with people and as we do business with people, because it helps us to understand how people deal with conflict. And so sometimes you can ask questions. You may not be getting the answer that you want if you're dealing with someone that communicates more in a more indirect, unemotional style, or you may think like this person is ignoring me. No, they're not. They just have a different communication style. And so people that are direct or a little bit more, more verbal, a little bit louder, more clarity in the message that they send. So, I say what I mean and I mean what I say. Indirect people tend to have a more, I would say, I don't know if you want to say flowery speech, but the speech is more you create your image, you talk around the issues people would say, you use maybe more illustrations and parables. It's not as direct and clear cut as we would want it to be as Americans. Then you have the emotional style. They may talk with their hands, they may be louder or more accent on their words, and the less emotional style would be a little bit, what we say, calmer, more passive in their communication. So those are just some normal ways that people communicate around the globe and from different cultures. And those things do have an impact on how people engage with other folks and how we understand the messages that people are sending. And so just to show you just a couple of maybe a different, just a few kind of more stereotypical types of, countries you could say that use the styles. We would say Americans are kind of here, depending on what part of America you're from. This would typically be white Americans. Here, you could say it would be Americans that are maybe from the South, or African Americans that are part of American culture would be more what we would say expressive and more direct. Here, where we have the style is more indirect and less emotional, let's say a country like Japan. And so some of the Asian countries would have a tendency to not be as direct when they communicate. And this is very important if you are asking people questions, you're doing business. Ceremony and other things may take precedence over just getting down to direct business. You can put your companies like, let's say Germany over here. So Germany would be another country. Germans are known for being very direct, very business-like. Here you would have more emotional, but less direct would be some of the Arab countries. You can consider some of the Arab countries, or maybe people from Pakistan would fall in these categories. And again, these are not hard and fast rules. These are just some generalizations. So don't get angry, don't get offended if you don't feel like you fall into these categories. Of course, like I said, in America, we can fall into different ways of communicating, and each country and regions within a country tend to be different. So don't get too caught up on these, but it's something that we need to pay attention to. And so if we are talking to people that seem unusually harsh, they may be operating in one of these two quadrants. We say, why are they so harsh? Why are they so mean? They're not actually mean. It's just how they are used to communicating and sharing information. Or you're saying, hey, a group down here, we're not getting the information that we need. Well, because you're not asking the right questions, or you're being too direct, and you need to ask different questions to get at the heart of the matter. You may have to get things done in writing. There are many different things that you can do. This is a more discussion style culture. This would be a more engagement style culture. This is more dynamic culture. You're going to have to really do some work to get at the heart of the issues, or when you're doing business here. And this is more accommodation. And so showing a lot more respect, a lot more ceremony in some of the business transactions. I think there's something that for us that deal with the public. So if you are in event planning, in a place where you have to work at customer service, you need to think about these. If you're working with international guests, how will my guests be communicating with me? How will the interaction go? Do I need to be a little bit more aggressive, or do I need to be a little bit more, do I need to dial it back some based on my communication style in order to effectively meet the needs of my customer or my client? So one of the things I do is called the Intercultural Conflict Style Inventory. So you can actually take an assessment. This is really easy. You can take it online. This is a nice workbook. You can do it in different languages, I really like it. So the online version, there's several different languages that you can do it in. I've done it with people from the continent of Africa, people from various countries in Latin America. I've done it for different European countries, and so they were able to take this inventory in their own language, which is very important. And so think about doing some type of inventory like this with your team if you are interested in enhancing how you communicate across national differences. It's very important you find out what are the tender spots in some of your negotiations or with your sales team. This would be a very good a tool to use with one of your sales teams, or even if you're a religious organization, you're doing missionary work, learn a little bit about how people from different places communicate. You have this kind of hot, cold culture thing going on, which also shapes how we understand and see the world, how we interact, the pace at which we deal, the pace at which we do business. So think about those things. So I hope you've gotten something out of this. Make sure you subscribe down below. I'm Glen Guyton, your cultural competency navigator, and I hope you have learned just a little bit about this. Make sure you check out my website and subscribe. Thank you. Have a great day.